Justin.
Hey, girl, hey.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
You know, it's really fun when you can just like be here for work, but just you're hanging out with your friends on a couch and talking about things that interest you.
I mean, that's what working in multifamily really is. It's just hanging out on the proverbial couch and talking about things that interest us.
I will never leave. I left for almost a year.
Yeah.
I didn't technically leave. I was working at Updater, but they threw me at one of their other industries. And boy, a trucking conference does not have anything on Social Media Summit and Napa.
Not at all. Nope. Nope. A lot of hats, a lot of beer, a lot of grunting.
Yeah.
A lot of axles.
It was not for me. Yeah.
Not for you.
Not
well,
for
welcome
me.
back. We missed you here.
I mean, it was great, but it is nothing like multifamily.
No.
I am glad to be back. Justin, I'm a big fan of your work.
Thank you.
You are a brilliant marketer, and I love marketing. I fangirl over your marketing all the time. You tell us a little bit about your background in multifamily.
You know, I cut my teeth as a tech guy, an entrepreneur in 2013 on that group of us who were in mobile marketing. You know, so 2012, 2013, we walked into the multifamily industry and said, hey, you're going to lease, you're going to advertise, you could even do the life cycle of the renter from lead to lease through retention and renewal on your mobile phone. And the reaction was like, no, you lie. This was a firm handshake, wet signature industry, and rightfully so. That's how they've been trained. And if you think about 10 years before even I joined, there was that panic when it went from being, you know, the like apartment guide, like Penny Saver magazine on the in the grocery store to the internet. No, surely it's a fad. Well, here we are. And so cutting my teeth on this industry, I got to meet small to medium-sized businesses in multifamily, and I got to go see these amazing empty apartments, and I realized the blank slate of an apartment fascinated me, and finding home. And these smaller operators who really were, almost if not all, were owner managed. It meant something to them to fill their buildings with community. So my first title in multifamily was community manager at RadPad. RadPad was a mobile rental marketplace. And that was the start. And then I found my way through the industry, through ILSs, through Zumper and Realtor.com as director of marketing, to find my way to find a home here and these people of how we get residents in homes. And I've said this to you, in this business of chosen family, you know, finding a place to belong, place, safety, security, those intangibles where we can become our better selves.
Yeah. So because you've been in it for I don't quite have as long in the industry as you, but I'm pretty close.
You're super close.
I think I might have started in 2014.
Same.
Yeah. Same. As a little baby leasing agent.
Same. If you're listening, yes, you can come on site.
Yes. So we've had an interesting perspective of the industry. We've seen it change over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I find your perspective very interesting because you've been on the tech side in a marketing capacity the entire time. What are some of your hot takes on the industry, where it's going, what's changing?
Okay, so my opinion is, and this, I can't really extrapolate too much on this, is if you can solve for attribution, for lead attribution, you can solve for multifamily. If anyone who's watching this can solve for attribution, call me up. I will find you $1 million. We'll start a company and we'll be bajillionaires.
Are you talking about renter attribution or B2B like?
No, renter attribution.
Okay.
Literal renter attribution to where leads come from and where they go. Because we're an extremely brand blind business when it comes to renters. They don't know where they found the place. They're on multiple sites. They come through different channels. And then we as marketers on the operator side are trying to make sure we figure out lift and where the ROI is coming from. It's an absolute black hole for people to find their way. That's one of the big problems. So anywhere out there in TV land, if you can solve that, congratulations, you solved multifamily.
And then go to B2B next, because then you're not going to be able to solve it because it's literally impossible.
It's absolutely impossible until it is possible. That's the other thing I would say. Another impossibility you're finding in multifamily is implementation is really challenging. And I think that's because, you know, we as vendors, we come to you with all these ideas and all these solutions, and we give you the reasons to believe, we give you the why. And we sell it because we're good at what we do. And a lot of these sellers have been selling to you for 20 years. So you trust when, and I'm just going to name names, Chrissy Friedman or Allison Nesbitt walks into the room with you, you trust that moment. But where things fall apart is actually in the implementation process, making sure that you as the operator ask the right questions, got the answers you needed, making sure that when someone says we have integrations, actually means we have an integration versus a Band-Aid. And then making sure we take the implementation responsibility to the vendor, making sure they give you the training materials that are required to implement not just at you at the decision-making process or not just your operator process, but all the way down to your assistant leasing agent, to your maintenance tech, so they know why you believed in the first place, as if you were there in the ring with them, why they can hold on to some of the expectations that were set up in that sales room and know how to implement it from the ground up. And what's happening is that it's implementations happening here. And then when it trickles down to onsite, because they're so overworked, even though eventually the investment could net them time back, could net them more heads in beds, could increase NOI, the friction to get it implemented destroys the process. And then your DOA there on this site, you can become DOA on this site. Maybe this site's kind of working, but then it's messed up the expectations you set up in that sales meeting, which can put friction on the relationship with you and your vendor.
If you think about the end user of most of our products, sometimes they're renters, a lot of times they're leasing on-site teams or the end user of a lot of these prop tech products. When I became a leasing agent, it was my very first job where they paid me to sit down. I had never had a job with a computer. Yeah, I was on like social media platforms, like had a computer and I know how to use it. I'm a millennial, but you think about some of the best salespeople, they don't come from desk computer jobs. They're not used to bouncing between 10, 15 dashboards. They are salespeople. They're really good baristas. They're really good waitresses and waiters. They're actors. Like they're people. And people are not always the same people that are like, I love all this different tech and I want to use it. Yes. And so there is a moment of fear of like, another thing. And I think as like project sponsors, decision makers, you're very conscious, like dashboard fatigue, like, oh, I don't want to dump more on these people that already have so much going on. But I've been having a lot of conversations about AI with a lot of different companies and automation. And it's all like, we will take away the part of the leasing agent's job that they don't want to do so they can be people. But there is that moment in between where they do have to learn your technology so that they can offload their work onto that technology. Yeah. And if it's missed, if it's not done right, if they don't get you may have given the what's in it for me statement to the buyer, but does the leasing agent know? Does the maintenance supervisor have a what's in it for me statement? Like they need to be on board.
And that barrier to adoption is very hard. And this was brought up at OpTech, which was really great. And it was a very simple session. It was really about data presentation. And for visual learners, remember, we come from a diverse group of professionals here. And the one thing we have to remember is neurodivergency is a very real experience for us. We all learn in different ways. Some of us identify as neurodivergent, some do not. We need to make sure that when we are presenting data to our end users, to your point, the folks who work on site, renters are using this cool technology, it's innovative, the UX is very cool and fun, oh my gosh, look at how disruptive we are. But then you forget, but your end user, the one who's advocating for the technology, is the one you give them your kind of piss poor dashboard that looks more like a Salesforce dashboard, which is just intense. Numbers, data.
We're not talking about your company, anyone, whoever's listening.
Not your company, we promise. But to give them a dashboard that doesn't make the data simple for them, fatigue will set in almost instantly, and they won't know how to utilize that data. And we all know that stories are data with a soul, right? They're trying to go out there and tell a story. They need to be able to tell a story to, let's say, you're a regional manager. That data needs to be the story you're managing up with and managing down with. And if that data is not digestible and in multiple different ways in the simplest form of it, and it's too complicated, you cannot tell a story that will get you more money as a marketer or get your team to operate better, then the data is useless.
I have a hot take, a hot career take.
Go, pop up.
If you can tie your work to revenue, you will be in a good spot all the time. And it's not easy. And not everybody can do it. And there's different ways to tie your work to revenue. You can tie it to like legitimate revenue. You can tie it to cost savings for the business, which impacts your profitability. But as a marketer, as a leasing agent, that is a really fast way to upward mobility in your career. Be like, hey, I did this thing and it saved the company $100,000. Or, hey, I made this change and I switched our customer acquisition costs from $20 to $5. Think about how many customers we have to get for the year. That just saved you, $100,000. I don't know. If you can tie your work to revenue, you will win. But the only way you can do that is if you have clean data and you know how to use your data. And you know how to use your data to tell the story to the person that is has your career in their hands.
Right, but let's say you don't know how to tell it with data. Okay, so you just said the persona in this situation is like an assistant leasing agent, right?
Yeah.
I love this persona, actually. Fresh out of college, gap year, lost a bet. Someone like me with all this energy walks in and some, a community manager's like, you'd be really good at this. Okay.
Will I get free rent?
Will I get free rent? Will I eat for a week? Yes, you will, Justin. So I take this job. No experience in data.
Yeah.
Vendors, sell to me. Give me the tools that I need to be able to
Make me look good to my boss.
make me look good to my boss. Advocate for you.
Yeah.
Give me that. Show me how to quantitatively and qualitatively tell that story. Justin, you will retain this many renters, or you will drive this many leases by implementing this very simple strategy. And it's the why. It's that simple nugget of an idea, like Inception, right? You plant the idea in 3 dream states down.
Yeah.
Give me the simplest version idea so I can tell it with simple data and reasons to believe that I can manage it up. And then make sure that I know how to replicate using your technology multiple times over. So if you give me the demo, you give me one webinar, I learn it, you give me one white paper, or, and then one how-to guide, you think that's enough? No, you need to make sure I'm implementing it and using it every day. Because yes, if you can tie your job to revenue, you win. Also, if you as regional leaders can help drive OKRs, KPIs that are revenue-based, but also based in that human aspect you were talking about earlier, that wins. And that sometimes it's hard to thread the needle to those human soft skill side of our job. I believe that multifamily people are very empathic. I believe we have just the right amount of crazy to be successful and are extremely human jobs. We're not just dealing with data all day, we can leave. We're dealing with human emotions. We're dealing with place. We're dealing with fears. We're dealing with insecurities and resources right now. If you think of this macroeconomic climate, you, my community teams, my leasing teams, my maintenance techs, that weight is on your shoulders every day. And we as vendors, we as good vendors, see that and understand that. How can we as vendors alleviate that one monkey off the shoulder, that one piece? And how can we place that with levity and lightness so that you then are working smarter, not harder? And then you are able to, from your assistant leasing agent to your property manager to your regional, are able to measure that and report on it in 2 seconds so you can move on and do it again. And sometimes it takes making sure you're in front of the right technology. And sometimes it takes shopping. And sometimes it takes revision on existing systems. And that can be very scary. We are taught in multifamily on somewhat of an imperfect model because so many of us came in here we didn't go to multifamily school. I didn't major in multifamily in college. I majored in listening and showing up and doing my job and owning my responsibilities and owning when I was wrong and learn from great leaders who also learn from those great leaders who learned trial by fire. The issue in that is we probably also learn poor best practices or band-aid situations. And then we get kind of married and embedded in them. Sometimes the most impactful thing you can do, the most disruptive thing you can do will make you feel the most uncomfortable. And in that journey, so whether it's a technology that's being brought to the table, whether that's a new employee being brought in who's not a culture fit, but a culture addition, listening to them and adopting and then maturing into new frames of thought. So then you can develop your own logic. You can develop your own language on site, your own strategy, because we all own strategy. Implementation is just strategy ownership made real. Strategy, driving revenue, that's strategy. Driving quality user experience or driving user experience, driving quality renter experience, that's strategy. And some of the greatest strategies just happen with the person who's literally there face to face, tummy to tummy with that resident who sat down and told them their true pain point. Oh, I can change that. I can put out umbrellas so you don't get wet walking from the clubhouse to your apartment. Oh, I can change that. I can make sure I have a coffee machine in the morning before you get to work, so you don't have to stop and spend, $20 on a latte. Oh, I can change that by making sure my team knows this little piece of insight that can then rupture an entire best practice into something new.
Yeah. We have to be in the moment and have to listen to our customers.
Yeah, I think listening is really hard because listening is hard. Listening is hard because it's easier to be heads down, do it what we know how to do. Because I think our survival mechanisms come to fruition. I think with all the things we're dealing with on site, there are horizons of change that do net us that one monkey off into that breathing moment when you can do the thing using the technology, using the culture addition, using the mentorship, or using your own inertia, your own ideas around strategy or data that can alleviate some of the stresses that have existed for too long and allow you to get back to do what you wanted to do, which was have that conversation with that resident, throw that resident event, bring luxury, not just, okay, I don't believe that Class A properties are the only ones who deserve lifestyle. I believe that's one of the biggest misnomers of our industry. I never lived in a Class A building. I loved a Class B, Class C life. It's all I could afford.
Garden style.
Garden style, girl. But those of us who work in those properties, you can bring those good ideas that will retain us. You can bring lifestyle there. But I know half the time you're just struggling to make sure that you're covering delinquencies, doing your reporting, making the literal dumpster fire, as I say, that literal dumpster fire that's happening outside your window goes out. I think there's an opportunity for people to really embrace change, especially right now. When 2024 is a hard year, we will survive until 2025. But it doesn't always have to be survival. You can thrive.
I think it's important to take those moments when you're in survival mode, running around and you have so much to do and you can't think. Make time to think and make time to question.
Okay, here's my question for you, Sydney. What's a survival moment you're seeing for our, let's say, regional or on-sites that you think could be changed today? What's something you feel that they're doing that's making them survive versus thrive? Like, this is something they should stop doing. This is something they could do.
I think that any admin task that can be automated should be automated. There shouldn't be millions of phone call and email follow-ups for every little thing. I believe that buyers want to self-serve their journey. And that's an assumption. I am of a certain demographic. I am a millennial. I don't want to talk to a million people on the phone. I want to do all my own research. And then when I show up, I'm ready to talk to someone. I want to talk to them now. Yeah. And I think this industry is doing a good job of this, but make the journey, the renter journey, as frictionless as possible. There's two ways to sell something. There's two levers you can pull. You can either inspire action and reduce friction. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what we think about in our marketing strategy or our sales strategy is how do we inspire action? How do we talk about how great we are? How do we have the prettiest, best ads? But if you do all that and there's like a little bit of friction in the buying process, you can lose them instantly because the competition is so high. So at every moment when you're thinking about inspiring action and getting more and more and more leads or more and more sales, think about like physically go through that process and find those friction points. Because there are so much that happens. There are so many phone calls you have to field. There's so many residents that walk through the door with questions. Like, make it so stupid easy to get information and communicate with you that people want to self-serve that stuff. They don't want to sit on the phone and wait for you.
Well, and this goes back to listening to your client. It's interesting. You talk about service now, service later, and no service at all. Mm-hmm. When I'm ready for service now, I want service now, like right now. And I want service now. If I've seen this amazing ad that makes you feel like my BFF, and then I get to you, and the service now I'm getting does not feel culturally like that ad I just saw, I think it's a bait and switch. I feel there's a disconnect because culture starts in the company. And this is where brand comes in. PMCs with great, property management companies with great culture, who talk about culture, who look culture square in the face and talk about it and build it within, that effervesces into the resident and future resident experience. So when I call in and I'm ready for action now, service now, and I'm met with the person who feels like that ad just felt, I'm even closer to buying. And if you know a little bit more about my personalization journey, take my money and run with it. If someone is able to give me an incredibly personalized sales experience, and that doesn't mean knowing deep, deep things. That means just regurgitating one or two key pain points or passion points that I gave you either in my lead form, or if you were able to get some more information through my attributed patterns of how I searched, perfect. If you know my name, you know that I have a partner. And, oh, Justin, are you going to bring your dog Gizmo? And you mentioned Gizmo later. Take my money. And I think that comes from being in a place where of deep listening, which I love that you brought that up. That culture of deep listening, that happens internally. If you're not listening to each other internally, how the heck are you going to listen to your residents? How the heck are you going to listen to me when I'm telling you exactly what I want? How the heck are you going to listen to me when I say, call me back? and you email me. That's not listening.
Listening to your employees and considering your culture and considering your diversity in your team and your business practices from the very top are very important because buyers are smart as hell.
You're smart. Yeah.
We will cancel a company. We will.
Well, we smell it now. Like,
oh yeah,
we can smell performativeness.
Yeah.
So much.
And I don't mean like any specific real estate company, but like think about general, like known consumer brands.
Any brand.
Oh, Starbucks is going through hell right now. People are boycotting the crap out of it for like union busting and stuff. Like you have to be a good citizen.
And that's hard.
Because your customers, your employees will obviously see it and they are experiencing it, but your customers see it. And I believe, especially as we see more Gen Z into the market, and obviously millennials have the most buying power of any generation at this point, even though we're like screwed over by every recession on the planet, we still are like the main renters, us and Gen Z, and we care. We will put our money where our mouth is. And if there are two properties that are similar enough, but one of them is, I know that one of them matches my personal values more, I'm going to go to that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy from the brand whose values match mine. So
well, you buy from you buy from your friends. And that's proven, right? You buy from literally yourself.
Absolutely.
Oedipal, I married my mother. I didn't. My husband is nothing like my mother. I think one of the cool things you brought up here was the idea of diversity, equity, inclusion, which can be very, very scary to talk about. You talked about being a good citizen. Those are really big topics. And, we only have so much time here on this revised podcast, but let's keep it simple here. Perfect. Let's keep it simple. Diversity is simple and impossible because as you get closer and closer to diversity, equity, inclusion, the scope becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And as you peel away the layers, but start simple, start having the dialogues. So I come from a really, really big background in the LGBTQI plus community when it comes to allyship and a lot of awareness around that, especially in this industry. Start simple. Because we as consumers, when we see that place and we visit this place and they've asked me my pronouns or share theirs or have an equality flag on the door or, ask a partner and, talk to my husband, little bits of language, little bits there make me feel safer. And as we, as consumers, realize we have niche definitions of ourselves. We talked about neurodivergence earlier, gender identity, any kind of these niche community opportunities that help define us. We're looking for that in the communities we move into. So good citizenship can seem complicated, but it's very simple. Listen to the person, listen to what they're telling you, ask qualifying questions that are, of course, within fair housing, repeat them back to them, and then do your best to showcase that your community is an open place for this, or that you're working on diversity, equity, inclusion. Now that's how you work with me as the consumer. Me as the employee, start working, create affinity groups, start having dialogues, create safe, brave spaces that amplify the voices from people you've never even talked about. Earlier on, one of my favorite communities, we, here at Multifamily, gender conforming dress in the workplace came up. And there was an amazing dialogue between people who never thought about it before and people like me who think about it 24/7. And what happened in this amazing community is that we came to understand and see one another what gender nonconforming dress in the workplace could do for us and could win for us. Those little bits of conversation we talked about earlier, implementation strategy, it really starts from the smallest darn place and then becomes this big thing. So if you are scared about DE&I, you think the DE&I is this big thing, because it is impossible. Because diversity, well, what diversity is it? It gets so big. You start from the smallest place, you do these little things, you will see the fruits of your labors happen internally and externally, because your mic will fall down and your consumer will see it. Your consumer will taste, touch, and feel it. Your consumer will sense it. Your consumer will see that person in gender nonconforming dress and go, thank God, a queer person. Okay, I'm safe here. Your consumer will see that person of color. Your consumer will see that person of a different generation working at the front desk. I'm safe here. They know me. They hire me here. They represent me.
I love that. This is so fun. I can talk to you all day.
I talked about a lot of stuff. Hope some of that made any sense.
I think that we're going to just be in someone's earbud while they're driving down the road and just, I hope that you're enjoying this in podcast land or wherever you're watching it.
Podcast land.
Podcast land.
We'll end with a song. What's the name of this podcast?
Well, this podcast is Multifamily Revised. This will also live on Life After Leasing. It's all just one big happy multifamily pod.
We're one big happy multifamily
Family
podcast.
podcast.
You're listening to one big happy multifamily podcast. Is it on revise? We're not sure.
We will find out soon.
The
Then later.
multifamily.
Is this going to embarrass us?
This is one of those cringe things that it's like later it's like, well, Justin.
This will be in the outtakes.
Play it.
If you're out there editing this somewhere, you choose if this is
Multifamily podcast. That's all I got.
okay. Well, that was more than I ever had. So thank you. Thank you, Justin.
That's fun.